Hello, thanks for joining us and welcome to the webinar Raising Capital Powered by ASSOB. My name's Paul Niederer and I'm the CEO of a company called the Australian Small Scale Offerings Board, and I'd like to take you through what I've learned over the past few years in watching companies succeed and fail at raising early stage capital. Recently we published what's called an infographic, and you're welcome to email me to receive a copy of this. But an infographic sets out on one page usually lots of the important information about a particular operation or entity or idea. If we drill down, we can see that over the past 7 years, Australia's raised, the Small Scale Offerings Board raised $128 million, and that's come from around 176 different companies, which on average raised about $522,000 each. Now to achieve that, they needed to sell down around 21% of the equity from that company, and usually there are around 14 investors in each of the companies. Raises have ranged from 55,000 up to 3.5 million, so there's a big range in terms of the size of capital raised. We did a check recently and 86% of the organizations that received capital are still operational, and there's a pretty fair balance between male and female when you consider in larger listed companies it's even smaller than that. The breakdown of investment has predominantly been retail, which means like mum and dad investors, and then 39% sophisticated investors, and they usually come in the later rounds of an ASSOB's capital raising. Normally, investors are located in the same state, sometimes they're in other states, and nearly 10% are from overseas. There's a number of sectors. IT and software and web-based seem to be the most dominant, and then health and beauty, food and beverage, mining and oil, and others. But there's been a huge range of products, from bed lifters to wine barrels, all sorts of other things that sometimes don't fit into categories. So let's have a look at different ways that you can raise your funds. If you're sitting there thinking, right, what sort of choices do I have? Banks have traditionally been one of the major funders, but with the difficulty of borrowing funds in this particular area, it's not as good an opportunity unless you've got a consistent cash flow, and of course if you've got plenty of room on your own personal mortgage. Friends and family for many generations have been a valuable source of funding and still are. Crowdfunding is a recent addition in which many people contribute not a large amount to a worthy cause or business via the internet so that they together fund a particular objective. High net worth individuals, always been valuable and always good if you can find them. Angels and angel groups, also a valuable source of income, and often you get more than the money from angel groups. You get somebody that can mentor you and guide you because they also want to make sure that their investment grows. And VCs for the larger amounts, but over the years as we've seen the cost of capital come down for starting a business, VCs are usually in the space above around about 5 million, but they can come down lower. The ASSOB platform has been built so that not just all the people mentioned in the previous category, along with directors' contacts and celebrities and affinity groups and professional investors and self-managed super funds, all of them are pointed towards your particular offering that you have up on the ASSOB platform. So it's really a place where potential investors can be accumulated, can be engaged and nurtured so that in the end they become investors. And when we look at successful raisings and see, well, what is it that makes a successful raisings, these are the 4 essentials that we find. First of all, there has to be a convincing, compelling and credible story. And of course, you yourselves would have been standing there sometime and somebody has come up to you and at a barbecue or whatever, and they'll say, look, I'm thinking of, I'm raising money for a business. And they'll say, what's your business? And that story that comes across, if it's convincing, if it's compelling, if it's credible, you'll say to them, well, gosh, keep me posted. I like what you're doing. So that convincing, compelling, and credible story is very, very important and a very strong factor in raising capital. Next, a balanced, passionate, capable, and likable team. And all of those points are important. Balanced, passionate, capable, and likable team. And then, around your particular idea or company, there have to be lots of suitable people to share the story and engage. And so, there is no successful capital raising if there's not people that are engaged and active and passionate about what you're doing, because that's what attracts other people and what's attracts investment. And of course, the fourth is somehow you've got to have some method to accumulate the story, the team, and the followers in one particular place so you can compliantly tell that story to the world. And of course, that's something that the ASSOB platform does. When we put those circles together, and if you look up in the top right, sharing the story with followers, or potential people that will follow you, you grab their attention. And through grabbing their attention, you get engagement. And then eventually, you get the decision to invest. And that's the process that happens. It's through the sharing of the story to the followers, together with the story about the team, how capable they are, how credible they are, their ability to execute, how balanced they are between technical and business things. Maybe you're being mentored to do this. Maybe some validation from people that have said what you're doing is great. Maybe the business model comes out so clearly in the story. But basically, the sharing of that gets the attention of people who become engaged in your story. And then after a while, they say, wow, I like what you're doing. I'd like to invest. And it's interesting when we look at it in our statistics within our process, in which you, when you're raising capital on ASSOB, have access to, you can see the degree of activity that's happening for a particular raising. You can see how many people have visited your profile, how many have downloaded the offer document, how many have become investors, whether they've watched the video for a short or a long time, whether they've wanted to become followers and be part of what you're doing. And so it's not just something that you sort of hope is happening. You can actually see, and you can then, if it's not performing in a particular area, you can think, right, something's not being accumulated. Let's have a chat. Let's see how we can better those statistics. And it can go right down to an individual level. You can check and see, oh, okay, this particular person, I see they became investor. What was their path? And in this particular case, you can see on the 13th of January, they first of all made contact with the ASSOB platform. And then for this particular investment, they started following it on the 7th of February, and they downloaded the offer document. They had a look at your offering on the page, and then requested sale alerts in May. They downloaded the offer document again, and in the end they became investor. Around about 15 or 16 actions later, over 4 months, had built up the level of credibility or belief to a point where they decided they were going to become an investor. And you can see at any one time the track record, as is in this example, of who is invested and on what dates and in what amounts. So if we go through now, we've talked generally about this, but let's go into each of the story, the team, and the followers with a little bit more detail. In terms of the stories, there's two types of stories that are very important in capital raising. The first one being the narrative. And the narrative is really like somebody coming up to you and saying, oh gosh, you know what Bill and I are doing? And they'll say, what? Well, you remember a few years ago we did this and this and this, and then we did that and we did that. That's the narrative. And that's very valuable in terms of preparing your offer document in your communications, because it is really your story. Another part of the story, though, is what's called the elevator pitch. And that's something that you have to get across succinctly in a short period of time, basically in the time that you would ride up in an elevator. And the elevator pitch is really so that when you go along to somebody that's probably a little bit more professional, you can give them a very good overview of what you're doing in a short period of time. Now, I like this example from Silicon Graphics, because back in the early days of digital processing, when Sun and HP and IBM were the big players and had all the machines, they didn't have the connections that movie companies wanted. So Silicon Graphics, who by far are now dominant in this section of the market, they decided that they would bring out a computer that had these connections. And when we think of it in terms of the structure of an elevator pitch, and on the next slide you'll see how you can work on your own, you start with the word for, which is for the customers. Who is your product or service for? And they said, well, it's for post-production engineers who are dissatisfied with the limitations of traditional film editors. Our workstation is a digital film editor that lets you modify film images any way you choose. Unlike workstations from Sun, HP or IBM, we have assembled all the interfaces needed for post-production film editing. So after you've been through that, you've got a really good understanding of their product, their markets, the product category they're in, how it solves problems, what the alternatives are, and the product features. And so you yourself, with your own company or idea, can also do this exercise. And please request from me the slides of this so you can work it out yourself, but you can fill in this blank sheet and come up with a very similar elevator pitch so that you can use to communicate succinctly what it is your product is all about. And from this particular statement, you can build your whole offering. And when you go along to somebody that's going to assist you with your capital raising, then this will give them a very good start to think, well, yeah, you might have something there. We'd like to help you. The next part is the team. And a balanced, passionate, capable, and likable team is very, very important for an offering. And people that are investing look at people. They invest in people. And when you ask VCs, well, you know, what was the biggest factor? Well, I really thought that these people had the ability to do it. And so this has to be conveyed. We've got a sheet there that's in the handout that you can fill in the details about your team. So put in who your balanced, passionate, likable team is. Who's your technical person, who's your marketing person, who's your management person, and put them in that first box in terms of, so people can see that yes, that is a balanced, passionate and likable team. And there are some other boxes there which are more along the lines of other things that are important for the actual capital raising. The first box at the top is for your team that's building your company and your project and your idea. The second box is for you need to have somebody that fronts this. You need to have a charismatic front person. And charismatic is a difficult word, and you know, there's very different grades of charismatic. But basically somebody that connects at a heart level or at a level that impresses people, that they will say, yes, this is, you know, we like what you're doing, and connect. So it may be you, it may be somebody you bring on board who's had a lot of experience in this area, but you have to nail down somebody that's going to handle this part. Because what I've seen, the most successful capital raises have come from somebody who's out there, usually the CEO of the company or the founder, that's actually a driven person that people say, wow, yeah, this guy's put together a great team, I'm going to back them. The next point is in terms of a credible board of directors. These days, it's not that difficult to accumulate onto a board of directors people of real caliber. There's lots of people in their 50s and their 60s and their 70s who had brilliant careers that haven't got a lot to do at the moment, that would welcome the chance to be on board with a group of young entrepreneurs going somewhere. So on our website, there's a section called Executive Equity. There's already a big list of people there that are willing to be directors in exchange for a small shareholding in your business. And this is something you'd work out with them themselves. Also, PR and social media are very important. You need to have somebody that can manage this communications aspect of it. Somebody that's going to be the campaign leader in assisting you in raising the capital. Also, graphic design people, because there are going to have to be documents produced, and websites and blogs and mail outs and things like that, and also videos as well. So fill in this sheet with the people that are going to support you in a capital raising. It doesn't mean that they have to cost a lot of money. Often they don't. Often it's people that you can gather from around you. That might be a graphics person at the university, might be retired journalists that can do your social media and things like that. But put together a team so when you sit across the table from people that are interested in investing, it's not just sort of like mum and dad and the neighbour. It's a team of people that can say, look, we can do this. If you give me the $30,000 as an investment, we will look after it. We will be good custodians of that, and we will grow that business. In order to do that, credibility is a very important factor. And to support the story, your story of what you tell, if you say you were the best thing since sliced bread and everything like that, and the team, you need to have credibility to back that up. And for the story, usually it's milestones achieved, and you mightn't think you haven't achieved any, but some of them are just simple things like when the idea came about, when the first prototype was built, when the first sale was made, when the first profitable sale was made, when the first out-of-state sale was made, when the first international sale was made, when the first sale was made profitably, when you received awards, things like that. People like to see a context around the process of your development so that they can say, well, this person seems to reach milestones and move ahead. I'm sure in the future they'll reach the milestones that they're promising. Next, passionate customers. Presenting a testimonial or a video or the meeting a passionate customer is very, very important, as well as industry experts' endorsements. Who else says you've got a great idea? Often, for credibility, you need to make sure your IP is secure. Some things are very easily stolen, and so patents and IP with trademarks and things like that are very important to have locked down. And then in terms of credibility, if somebody's going to invest something, they want the money back at some time, usually around 3 years. So they're looking and listening to see, well, how are we going to get our money back? What exit have you planned? What is desirable as an exit? Is it a trade sale? Is it a listing on a stock exchange? Is it some merger with another company? What is the way in which we're going to get our money back? So that's the credibility to support the story. And then to back up the team, you need to ensure that the directors you have got the right sort of credentials. Like if you're in the area of generating electricity through a special turbine with waves, then have people that are specialized in this area or have been involved in rolling out electricity projects and marketing them, and that they've got the technical ability and the marketing and business ability, so that when somebody's reading about you, they say, wow, these guys have really done a great job in this particular niche, so I'm sure they'll do a great job in this one. So you've got in your handout a sheet also with gathering credibility to support the story and to back up the person and team, and put down the awards, the milestones that you've achieved, industry experts, any high profile investors that you know you've got around you, what your exit alternatives are, some strategic partners and customers, how secure your IP is, maybe some board members. Just build this up so as you go through the process of preparing yourselves for capital raising, you've got all this, so when somebody asks you these questions, you don't have to be chasing around through your briefcase in your office desk for the national award you won for best invention of the year or something like that. You've got all that stuff together ready to show the person that's going to assist you with your particular capital raising. Now we get to the followers part of it, and it's probably the most misunderstood part of the capital raising, because people honestly believe that if they've got a good story and a good team and they've got credibility, that somebody will just walk in, when they walk into an office and put their story and their team and their credibility across on the table, the person behind the desk will pull out a checkbook and say, I love what you're doing, here's your money. But it doesn't work like that. And if you can get investors like that, that's great, good on you. But from our experience for the last 176 raises, there's around 14 investors per matter. In order to get 14 investors, you have to have more than 14 that are interested in your particular idea. And we've found a great way to do that is that we at ASSOB, we have what's called a discovery meeting. We sit down with the company that's raising capital, together with the founders, the management, company's advisors, the staff, the people that work through it. There's somebody from ASSOB might be there, there could be a sponsor there, and sit down and work out, how's this going to work? How are we going to raise this capital? Where it's going to come from? And one of the most important things that people find difficult to realize that you're actually selling a portion of your business. This isn't so much about speaking for hours about your wonderful product and your wonderful service. It's about selling a portion of your business. So to do that, you need a professional sales and marketing campaign. So it's not just about the information memorandum or the offer document that's just sitting there and you can hand to somebody. It's about getting the right messages to the right time to the right people. You saw before that it took around 16 impulses from January through to May to get somebody to invest. And that needs to be orchestrated into a program that recognizes that you are selling a portion of your business and it's done in a professional way. Now, the way we've found the best to do it on our particular platform and for the 176 companies that have raised money is to point all of those people that are interested, whether or not they're angel investors or VCs or professional investors or friends, fans, family, followers, towards your page on the ASSOB platform. And once you get there, those people are possibles for investing, and they can be fans of yours, customers, suppliers, industry leaders. They can be people that come from the 23,000 odd ASSOB contacts. They could be personal contacts of yours, or professional investors, or celebrities, or people from overseas, or people that have got an affinity with the niche that you're working in, or the business area, or the city, or the town. All those possible people, once they get onto the platform, they become your followers. They are following just you and your matter. And from that, if you have a couple of hundred followers, then generally we find you'll get around 10 investors from those couple of hundred people. And it's a gradual process. In the beginning, you're standing there as the lone entrepreneur with no investment. Then after a while, you'll get a first follower. You'll get somebody that will come along and say, wow, I like what you're doing, I support it, here's my check, I want to belong in your process. Then you get the second follower, and after a while you'll get your first round, which is usually on an ASSOB raising around $200,000 to $300,000. And then you'll get more investors and you'll get your second round, so you've got $400,000 or $500,000. And then once you get into your third round, that's when you get the more professional and sophisticated investors, because they see that this is something to be followed, to be part of, to invest in, because things seem to be happening here. People often say, well, does it work? Well, at any time you can log on to the primary board at ASSOB and check through the different listings, and you can see one that perhaps is like your business, and read their offer document and their news releases and their information, and check how much they've raised and see if you also think they've got a good story and a good team and followers, so that you can then check with them check with that to see, right, okay, well, maybe I would do well. But it's a very transparent process, and everything can be seen there on the actual primary board. And of course, once you get raising, you've got the access to statistics. So once you've got the people on the platform, the next thing is that they come from all different walks of life. And what we've noticed, some people invest early and some invest late, which means basically some people need more convincing. And so to do that, you have to engage the people in the actual capital raise. And so as you saw with this particular investment, from January through to May, it took for a person to come invest. Okay, some people might do it in a week or 2 weeks, but it's not always like that. So different ways have been
found on the ASSOB platform to communicate out about an investment opportunity. And one of them is our e-news, which is the monthly e-news newsletter that goes out to 23,000 people on our database. So that means somebody will get this e-news and they'll like the title. Like if they're interested in gold mining, they might kick on a title, a headline that says about gold mining, and that means then they become a follower of yours, and they'll look at your profile page and they'll download your offer document and that. So that's one way to get somebody from the 23,000 odd people that are on the ASSOB platform. Some companies are better than others. If we take a recent raising of ours of Conduit, which is just closed its prospectus round, it raised 967,000 on the ASSOB platform and then went on and did a further raising with prospectus. They were very good at communicating what was going on, and as you can see down the bottom part of this slide, in September they started with their newsletters, and then every week they sent out a newsletter about what was happening with the programmers, what they were doing, what niche they were marketing, some important shows they had, things like that. And the newsletter featured the guys mostly and what they were doing, so people had a personal contact with them. Other ways is with a video, that a ASSOB TV hosts all the videos of the companies that are listed on the ASSOB platform. And some people are more abreast things like Twitter, and in this particular case this was a mining of ours, Iron Glen Mining, that came onto the board, and in a year it went from raising its money, it took a year to raise 2.1 million and list on the AIMS exchange in London. So basically they did a very good raising and moved on to their objective of listing on AIM. But what was interesting here was that the people that were engaged in the actual raising were also communicated with through Twitter. And so as you can see that 4 days ago they had a message, then 2 days and 1 day, 19 hours ago, 16 hours ago, 5 hours ago, you could see some exploration photos. So they got people involved in the actual process as they were moving through the development phase of their project, which was very successful. Some people, like Etienne Foray from iPowwow Limited, has a monthly newsletter that he sends out and updates all of the people that are followers and also the stakeholders, the people that are already investors, on what's going on with the company. So in this particular case you can see that he's advising them that please find attached the iPowwow participation TV case study of the recent Miss USA event on NBC. With over 7 million viewers and 12.6 million votes, a live global telecast created a world's first by bringing together the power of both social media and television into a single killer app. And so basically he let them know that we've managed to get our product to drive the Miss USA event on NBC, and here's the stats, and there's an attached PDF about it. And of course people think, wow, things are moving on, maybe I should think about investing. So that was part of the nurturing and engaging part of the actual process. All of these announcements are maintained on the platform, and there's a record of them, so people can always find where they are and look at them and follow what you've been doing. So if you get an investor that comes onto the platform today and hasn't been involved in that, they can look back through the different announcements and things so they can see what's been going on. Another way we've found very useful are the pitch breakfasts that we have, and they're held every 3 months, where a room of basically 50 or 60 investors come together and 5 or 6 companies pitch their offering to the people in the room. And that's been a fairly successful way. There's usually around about $300,000 or $400,000 of investment comes out of those events. And you as the entrepreneur stand up the front, you have a PowerPoint presentation and a microphone, you're introduced, you speak for 5 minutes, and then there's a few questions, and then the next person speaks. And it seems to be a good format, and people enjoy their breakfast, and then it runs from 7 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock people stay around for a few questions and then head back to their job. So once we've got the people onto the platform and you've engaged them and you've found what's going on, you still have to know a little bit more to know, well, who is really interested? Who should I be contacting? And that's a great thing about the Powered by ASSOB process, is the measuring and marketing that is built into the system. And as I mentioned before, a PR person or a person, you need to have a campaign leader really supporting you in all of this, because it's becoming such an important part of that actual process. As you go through a raising, and this the reddy coloured line is the potential investor line for a particular offering. You'll see this is from February through till August, of the rate at which potential investors were actually joining the platform for a particular offering. And this can be drilled down to be sorted in terms of the different people that have been on there. And in this particular case, we can see that some of the potential investors had 25 activities, 78 activities, 9 activities, but they're also ranked on the platform. So if somebody looks at the video, looks at the offer document, requests more information, does different things, they get a higher ranking than if somebody watches the video 10 times and does nothing else. So the score there, when somebody's got 15, that's a really good score. So the people there with 15, 15, 13, 13, 11, 11, 11, like that, they should be the people that are being communicated with, because they have not invested yet, but they've done a lot of activities, and you can drill down and see what they have done on an individual level. Sometimes you might just want to see, right, who's been active in the last 5 days and what have they been done, so that then you can contact them. And then you can drill down and you can see that this person from February right up until today, you see they're active in February, then they came in the middle of March, they looked a bit more, and then in April. And so it might be that they need a little bit more information. So a simple call to them might say, well, look, we see you're interested. Did you realize that we've just developed this part of it, and we're holding an investor meeting, and you know, maybe you'd like to come along or something, so that you can engage them further in the actual capital raising process. And so maybe in your particular one, you might find that people that watch the video have a high potential to invest, and maybe you just want to look at the people that have watched the video for more than 60 seconds. But that statistic is available from the platform to do that, and you can sort in all sorts of levels, like who was the last person to do that, and the person before that, and the person before that. So all sorts of ways you can look at who's doing what in terms of your offer, so that you could be guided on how you can contact them. In terms of communicating with them, social media is a dangerous area for equity investment, because there's very strict regulations about what you can say and who you can say to. But we have built into the platform an area where you can have what's called compliant tweets, compliant Facebook posts, and compliant LinkedIn posts. And that means that you could put them there, and they can be tweeted out by people that come and visit your page, so that can be spread out through their contacts. So before something's loaded up, it has to pass through our legal department to make sure that you're not going to be breaching any regulations with the tweet, the like, or the post that you're putting there. In terms of capital raising, there's a huge range of companies that have done it. There's companies like Microskin with spray-on skin, Cocoon Data with encryption software, Flex Tank, which is wine barrels, Stamina Lift with bed lifting equipment, Billy Goat Soap is soap for to assist people with allergies, KTIG is a welding technology that welds pipes 10 times faster, Self Wealth is a very innovative superannuation, self-managed superannuation portal where you can do everything to do with your self-managed fund. Aware produce products like Orange Power and biodegradable and Planet Ark endorsed laundry detergents. Opmantec produces modules for open source software, and I see their raise is I think it's just gone up over 600,000, so that figure's low. Iron Glen Mining was that mining one. Titan Media was outside advertising signs. Pressure Food was drinks that are in all the Coles and Woolworths supermarkets. Mercurian, it was for learner driver technology. Encryptus backed up software. KFSU, fiber and food. So there's so many different areas that are covered on the platform, and it's not just for sort of like high-tech companies. So if you want to learn more about it, go to our website, and there's a number of different tabs for investors, for entrepreneurs, and about ASSOB. Click on the About ASSOB one, and you'll see that you can learn about ASSOB, why you should list on ASSOB, how it works. And then there's a place called Raise Capital, where if you click on that button, it gives you the opportunity to complete a form that gets you started in the ASSOB process. And once you do that, we'll send you a simple 8-question form that you complete, and which will help you get going. And we send you back actually something that will tell you what your company is going to look like after you've raised the capital. It doesn't cost you anything. It's extremely valuable whether or not you raise money on ASSOB or not. And the things that are in there after you've completed it, the form, and sent it in, is like the name of the existing business, and you can put whatever name you like. It's just for to communicate what it is. Then tell us a story. If it's something you think is secret, then disguise it a bit. But tell us a story about your business project, your investment opportunity, as you would to somebody at a barbecue or a family gathering. So you put that into that square. And then list down the current owners and how much of the company they hold at the moment, what percentage. So Joe might have 40%, somebody else might have 40%, and somebody might have 20%. So you put that in there. And then seeking capital, how much do you need? Is it 500,000, 600,000, a million? Put down the amount of money that you'll need over the next 2 or 3 years to fulfill your plans, so that we can see the big picture with that. And then in terms of when you're capital raising, how much are you willing to sell down in order to do that? So what percentage will you sell down to get that capital that you require? Often people range between 10 and 30%, depending on how far advanced their particular offering is. So put a figure in there, and if it causes issues with something when we're preparing this, we can get back to you and discuss with you, what the story is there. Then in terms of, you remembered how important I said about the exit strategy, then put how you expect the investors to get their money back. Sometimes you'll have a company in mind who will buy, that you're strategically building your business for. Or you might sell it on to a third party as a trade sale. You might be listing on a stock exchange, or you're not sure at this stage. Then in box 7, put down just an estimate of when you get the money. Once you get the money and invest it into your business, what do you think you'll be making in profit for the next 3 years? So this is the average of the next 3 years' profit. And so it is difficult. You might need to get your accountant to assist you, but we do need a figure in there to calculate that particular figure. You'll get back a strategic growth plan that will detail out for your particular company how much you will own, how much other people own, so that you can then give a good basis for preparing your documentation for your capital raising. In terms of the ASSOB process, there's a $990 Part 1, we call it, admissions due diligence fee of $990. And we've got to employ a lawyer to go through all of this, to check out the entity, the directors, the IP, different aspects to make sure it's compliant in terms of the offering. So that's Part 1, which is $990. And then there's Part 2, which is a listing and platform fee, and that's when we go through your offer document, and you get back valuable feedback on things you've written, if they are not compliant, whether they can be improved, really to guide you through on our experience through that offer document. So that's probably around $5,000 you pay ASSOB to get it up on the platform. And to remain listed after your capital raising, it'll cost you $360 a year. So you get the benefit of the secondary sales platform, and the possibility that other people gazing may contact you and may invest. In terms of somebody assists you with this, and often with capital ASSOB raising, there is what's called a sponsor fee, a sponsor assisting. So they prepare an offer document for you, and usually that costs around $3,000 plus. So you could say the $5,000 plus the $3,000, it's going to cost around $8,000 minimum for you to do a raising on the ASSOB platform, in terms of what you're going to have to pay upfront before you raise capital. So sometimes it costs a lot more than that $3,000 with a sponsor, because they've got a fully involved process of preparing videos, of marketing, of doing a lot of the work, whereas other sponsors allow you to do a lot of the work themselves. But that's something you can determine with discussions with them. And if you once you send in your 8 questions, usually what you get back is a sponsor or 2 that would suit your particular matter and your expectations. Now, in terms of the actual raising the capital, once the capital is raised, it goes into an independent trust account that is managed by you, and those funds are dispersed according to your instructions. And one of those instructions is usually a success fee for the percentage of capital raised, which is around about 8% usually, that is paid to people assisting you in raising the capital. So that's another thing you must factor in. But that comes from money that people have invested, so it's not something that you have to pay up front yourself. So I trust this webinar has given you a good overview of the Powered by ASSOB process and how it works and what happens during it. So please email me if you have any questions. Give me a call if you think your company may or may not suit. I'm very willing to share all my experience with you, and please enjoy the rest of your day and look forward to hearing from you soon. Cheers.